I told Eric, I'm so impressed. You know, their library, you're so lucky there in Mystic and Noank. You've got so many programs being offered by the library, and it's great to see people utilizing that. I've been with the Department of Banking for since about 2003. My title is Outreach Coordinator. We're a regulatory agency. We regulate state chartered banks and credit unions. So down your way, Chelsea Groton Bank, I think, is one of the banks that we regulate. We also regulate the mortgage industry, check cashing facilities, money transmitters. In Walmart, you could go in and cash a check or wire money. So our examiners go in there. And we also have a really active securities division. So your investment professionals, financial planners, we take care of all that. So probably about 80% of the people in my agency, they have a financial background, and they go in and they do all these audits and really with part of our mission of protecting our money. But as well with that mission is educating people. So I feel like I have the fun job in our agency, because I get to go out and about. And now in this day and age, I get to come virtually onto your screen and share some great info. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, and I've got my presentation that I'm gonna, so there it is. The presentation is Preventing Identity Theft Online. And Eric and I talked a little bit about this, and I sort of put together some information from a few different programs, as well as a lot of new information. So I'm really excited to prevent this. I think it's a real timely topic because, as this screen shows, there's traditional ways of banking, the brick and mortar bank, where I'm sure most of you, I still do. I like to go into the bank. My kids like to go through the drive-through. I have to say, we get the lollipops. They're 10 and almost 12, and they still like to get the lollipops from the drive-through. But there's something about dealing with a real person when you go into a bank. A lot of people don't use a bank, and and I have the image of the piggy bank there, but we have a lot of unbanked out there as well, people. So we do try to get them. We have some programs where we encourage people to utilize, the banking system in some respects, but saving money in your piggy bank is still a great way to, at least for the kids, to start doing their banking. And then we also have our traditional ways of paying for things. Paying cash. I was telling Eric earlier, I like to have cash in my wallet. I like to have, even if it's just a few dollars, I like the feel of money. People in this day and age, a lot of millennials are sort of going cashless. But you know what? I'm going to stand in line at the grocery store, and if I have cash to pay, I'm going to take my time and do it. So, but this is still what's considered a traditional way. Writing checks. I still write checks. My husband and I, we do a lot of that. I have moved over to some online banking as well, though, actually more so to online. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that with you all. And using credit cards and using debit cards. These are really traditional ways of paying for things, and ways that most of us really do. But what I want to talk a little bit about is some of these modern ways that people are banking. And this is kind of where the preventing identity theft online and cybersecurity really comes in, because if you're doing all of your banking just in person, that's probably the best way. You're really avoiding any kind of online. But our information is out there. Our information really is online. When we open these accounts, even a lot of our doctor's offices, my family, we moved over to a different dentist, and they text me for confirming appointments, and because I'm willing to do that, it's a new method, but there's also, your information's kind of out there a little bit more. So back to banking, these modern ways of banking. Online banking has been around a while. I do quite a bit of online banking. I love that I can log in 24 hours a day, and I can see what my account balance is. I can see what checks have cleared. It's what has been deposited. I have my paycheck and different things automatically deposited. I handle my mother's finances. My mother is actually in assisted living, so for the last few years, I've taken over her finances and everything. And I have to say, with her, the online banking has just been wonderful because I can go in and check things. I can pay bills. I have a lot of her bills automated. But again, that's just more of an online presence. So we're going to talk about how we want to make sure to protect ourselves that way. There's also mobile apps. I'll be curious if many of you, a lot of people I know are using these smartphones. My aunt's fully on board with this. She actually uses an iPad because it's a little bit bigger and really likes going on social media and things like that. A lot of people have been using the mobile payment apps. And they have something called person-to-person payments a lot of people are doing. So I'm going to talk about that briefly as well. So online banking is the first one I want to talk about. People are interested in that, but you know, they're saying, how do I know that online banking might be safe? Well, first of all, if it's your own bank that you are already using, let's say Chelsea Grattan, Webster Bank, TD Bank, Bank of America, most banks have an online presence. I'd be really surprised if any of the banks that we're using here in Connecticut don't. And my suggestion would be to get the address, the website address from your bank, and you know that that's a legitimate one. Where I offer concern for people is if they want to change banks and they're just sort of on the internet and they come across this bank and it's got really low fees, really good rates. There's a lot that's attractive to them, but they've never heard of it before. You always want to confirm, as with anything, but you want to confirm this financial institution is legitimate because you're going to be depositing your money with them. And I hope most of us are familiar, but you want to make sure your deposits are federally insured. As with any bank that we are doing our banking with, as with the brick and mortar banks, I think we take it for granted that there's that little FDIC sticker, but it's so important to make sure that your deposits are insured, because if anything were to happen, you want to make sure your money is protected. And the way you do that is at FDIC.gov, and right from that home page, you scroll all the way down and you go to Bank Find. So this is what I tell, you know, a lot of particularly, I work with millennials. They're, you know, and a lot of people don't want to go into a bank because of their hours they're working or different reasons. They just want to do everything online. So I say, make sure that institution is legitimate. Doesn't have to be a bank. It could be a credit union. But you want to make sure those deposits are federally insured. And actually, I should have included for credit unions, it's the I believe it's the National Credit Union Association, NCUA, that insures credit union deposits, but I can actually double check that for you. So, and as I mentioned, you want to type the name of that website into your browser. If you are on the internet and a pop-up comes up and you think you want to use that bank, you don't want to click that link and go to it. You always want to type in the name. And when I show here HTTPS, that shows it's secure. I believe most websites now have all turned over to the HTTPS. I think almost any website you go to, they really have to be a secure site. But particularly when it's something where you're putting a password in, or certainly a financial institution, you want to make sure it has that secure S, the HTTPS. And as I said, don't just use a link that maybe you were emailed or got through a text message. You know, a lot of people are getting scammed that way, where they're just getting an email. I'm going to talk about that in a little while as well. But you know, it's, you know, I'm banking with ABC Bank, but 123 Bank just emailed me and they've got great rates. You know, we were thinking about doing a refinancing. Look at this rate. I think I want to use them. And you're tempted to just click that link. And that's the last thing you want to do, because you just don't know that that site it's going to take you to is actually legitimate. Okay. And with this online banking, you want to make sure your transactions are very secure. You want to safeguard that account. If you're doing online, you want to make sure the bank uses encryption to protect your information. Just ask. If it's not in any of the details there, you could just call and you can ask somebody. They should always require passwords or PINs. And a lot of times they require my bank, even though I'd probably go on it at least once a week, every now and then there's something called a two-factor authentication, which means I've given them either my email address or my phone number. And what they'll do is either send an email or a text with a code. So when I log in, I have to confirm it here. In fact, I have a work laptop, and every single day I log in, I get a confirmation code sent to me so they know it's me. So if somebody else takes it, unless they have this too, and if they get it, they shouldn't be able to get in because I have it, let's see if it'll show up. I have it locked. It's that extra security for you. And you always want to make sure you have the latest security updates on your device, whether it's an iPad or a phone, or on your computer. It's a really important thing. Again, I'm going to bring it up again later as well when we talk about identity theft. Now, mobile payment apps are different than online banking. Online banking, as I mentioned, it's you're logging into the bank's website, a secure website with your secure password, and you can access your banking information. You can pay bills, you can check deposits. It's really a nice thing. And it's been, like I said, it's been around a while, so a lot of people are comfortable with that. These mobile payment apps are a little bit different. You may have heard of Venmo or PayPal or Apple Pay. These are apps, so they're applications on your phone or device that let you send money. And you set up an account, you link it either to your bank or your credit card, and so it's money you already have. They're taking the money that you have and allow you to pay. So for instance, if Eric and I both have one of the apps, let's say Venmo, and we go out to eat and we want to split the bill, maybe one of us can pay it and I could just pay Eric with Venmo. Or if he buys tickets to something and he's able to go online and get the tickets, I could just send him money, and you know, we could be next to each other or we could be 50 miles apart and I could send that money. So it's a really nice way people find in this day of technology to make purchases or send money. But what about the security of it? This is what we want to check. When you use these type of things, you definitely want to find out about fees. If there's fees involved, am I putting $20 in there, but they're going to take, you know, a certain percentage of every time I make a payment? That's a question I want to ask. How about privacy? Anytime you download an app to your device, you want to at least check the privacy. It's you know, really small letters and, you know, small font and a lot to read, but a lot of it's kind of basic that you can check through. What are the funds availability? Am I going to be able to get access to my funds when I want to? Okay. You want to know your rights with disputing errors. You know, even technology makes errors. They certainly do. And also, are you using a bank versus a non-bank? Okay. These are just different questions you want to ask when it comes to these. And you'll see the peer-to-peer and the mobile banking are very similar, are kind of, you can sort of exchange the names on that. This example I'm going to give is PayPal. I use PayPal a little bit. It's nice for when you're making purchases online in particular. You can, instead of going to a site, let's say you're on Amazon or, you know, one of the clothing stores, LL Bean, and you make a purchase on a secure site, you don't have to put your credit card information in. You just give your password for PayPal, and it kind of goes through PayPal to get to your money, and then PayPal actually pays. So as I say here, you as the user authorize the app, which is in this case PayPal, to debit a bank account to fund the PayPal account. And then you'll tell PayPal, send money, I want to pay this, I want to purchase this, so you're going to pay it for me. And then whatever account you've set up with PayPal actually pays it. Maybe this might help a little bit with the security. With these person-to-person apps or this mobile banking, you do have to create a PIN, and then that PIN lets you complete these transactions. So if someone gets your device but they don't know your PIN, they can't utilize it. So that's a good thing. In a lot of cases, you can receive a notification by email or text that a transaction was made, which is nice. It's sort of that extra security for you that you get that notice, because if you suddenly get a notice that a transaction was made and you didn't make it, you can go in and correct that error, okay? One of the things we tell people, only transact with people you know. Now, this is particularly the person-to-person payment. But I think that also makes sense in my example of using it for stores online, like Amazon or LL Bean. You don't want to kind of be checking the internet for something and coming across a random website. I always am leery of that. I always tell people, if there's something you think you want to buy or something, look for a phone number and call, or maybe Google and check and see if people have anything to say about that site. But if it's a site you're not used to or that's new to you, I'd be very leery about putting a credit card or any of your or using PayPal or something like that. Okay. So with safety and security, these are a few of kind of the important things you want to check off your list. Now, the one thing you may have caught, I didn't. Whoops. Let me come back up here. I didn't speak on this last bullet. The FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation that I mentioned, which insures deposits, they recommend linking to either a bank account or a credit or debit card. Well, I'm going to suggest use a credit card and not your bank account, because if you link to a bank account and that transaction was incorrect, or let's say you meant to send someone $50 and you sent them $500, or there was some kind of an error, you got a text and it wasn't you. If the money is taken out of a credit card, you have a better case for that credit card company to take care of it for you. Your protections are there. If that money comes out of your bank account, it's gone, and it's going to take longer for your bank or credit union, whatever financial institution it is, they want to prove, they want the proof that that money shouldn't have gone. Okay, so think about that. Kind of in general, when I tell people using a credit card online is much better than using your debit card, because that money's not coming right out of your account, okay? You also, this is so important, you want to make sure whatever device you're using, whether it's an iPad or a computer, your laptop or your phone, you want to make sure it's secure and that its software is up to date. A lot of people don't. They think, oh, I'm just using it in my home. Nobody else is using it. I'll get to the update. Really important. Now I think Microsoft does sort of an automatic update. I know we were told in work they're sort of doing that automatically, but if you have certain antivirus, you always want to make sure that's up to date. Your software, just when you get that little pop-up that says it's updating, don't click, oh, I'm in the middle of something, let me have it do it later. If that's the case, a lot of times you can put in update tonight and let it do the update. Shut everything down and let everything update. It's so important because these updates install a lot of security patches or security measures in there that they could find. There may have been weak spots that people were allowing hackers to get in, and this software update is really going to help prevent that. You also don't want to use public Wi-Fi for financial transactions. In fact, I tell people, if you're on a site you have to log into with a password, even if it's not a financial institution, I say don't do it with public Wi-Fi. I know in the airport, a lot of times when we're waiting for flights, we go on our social media. It's just too easy for hackers to get in. And certainly online banking, you don't ever want to do that on public Wi-Fi. You just want to stick to your secure site. Or if you're somewhere where it's a secure setting. A lot of times if you're staying somewhere on vacation, you have to log in to the hotel with a specific site. If it's just open for any guest and it'll say unsecured, you don't want to do any of your banking there. Okay. And then as I mentioned, you want to watch out for those phishing emails. We call them phishing emails because they're phishing for information. They look like they're coming from a bank, or it could look like it's coming from PayPal or Venmo or one of those sites. And what you need to be really leery, because there's not many cases where they'd want to email you and say, oh, we've had some security issues. We need you to log back in, or we need you to put your, we need you to confirm that this is your bank account information and put it all back in there, or put your social security. Those are all huge red flags that tell you you're very likely on a site that's not legitimate. So if you think an email came in that seems legitimate, delete it. And then you can either call the institution, or you can separately go to the institution's website. And if they've sent you a notice, like a marketing notice, a lot of times when you do online banking, there's a spot where they have announcements or notifications. Chances are that that email is not there. Okay, so you would just want to be leery of these phishing emails that come through. Now, when it comes to cell phone protections, I just wanted to throw this in here. People sometimes forget your cell phone, especially these smartphones where we can go in and have all these apps. It's a computer, so you want to protect it. You want to have auto lock. And of course, my auto lock is, I was hoping it would come up and show you, but it comes up and you have to log in. You have to put my code in. Put that password protection. Some of them people can put their thumbprint. Some of them are voice activated, but whatever you do, just make sure you do the proper security, because in case it's ever lost, you don't want people to have access to all of your apps, because in many cases, your apps may open right up, may already be, you may be logged into all of them. Install the updates. People think on their phones, they don't need to worry about that. And it's so important. As I mentioned, know your Wi-Fi. You don't want to keep it roaming. I know it could be a pain if you use your Bluetooth for a lot of things, and say you're in and out of your car and it automatically turns on for you. If you're not going to be using it for several hours or like for a whole day, you want to turn that Bluetooth off. A lot of times people have their Wi-Fi set to automatically connect. So, if you go to Dunkin' Donuts once and you connect, now every time you go, it's going to automatically connect. Just be leery of that, especially if you think you want to go into some secure sites, okay? And understand the apps you get. They are collecting information and they may share your information. As I mentioned, those privacy notices, you want to read those. Always update, and just be leery of malware. So with apps, I always, my sons, a lot of times they want to play games with their friends. They can kind of get online and both be on at the same time. I Google and I look into every single app. It doesn't matter to me just that it's on the App Store and that there's reviews there. I always Google and check, make sure things are legitimate, that they're age appropriate. And if things have come with malware and have affected people, that's going to come in on the reviews. So you want to do your due diligence and do your homework. Okay, so we're going to move on to talk about identity theft a little bit. Do we have any questions at this point about anything? I know I'm going a little bit quickly, but I kind of wanted to sort of, before we talked about identity theft, really share these newer methods of banking with you. And, a lot of people are doing their banking online, or maybe even have an online banking account. Maybe you're not paying bills, or maybe you're not doing too much, but maybe at least you just check your statements that way. You still want to make sure you're very secure. So we're going to, seeing no questions at this point, we're gonna talk a little about identity theft. So What is identity theft? It's somebody else using your personally identifying information. That's your name, social security number, a credit card number, maybe your bank account number, or other types of identifying information without your permission, and often without your knowledge. And what they might do is create phony documents. They might, if they've got your social security number and your name, they might even they might not even know your address. That's even something a lot of times they purposely change, but they could go into a store, open up credit, and then all of a sudden now they've got some presence there. And if one store doesn't let them, maybe they'll go to another, but once they get that credit, then they go on a shopping spree. And they're going to buy expensive items, and before you even, hopefully for their point of view, before you even realize that your identity has been stolen. So we want to look into this a little bit and see how we can help prevent that, okay, and what due diligence we could do. Now, what are some of the ways people might do this? As I said, they're going to get your information, but how? How do they get that information? You know, I'm trying to protect my information as much as possible. And one thing I'm not going to discuss tonight, I'm actually thinking about it right now, are some of the security breaches that happen, unfortunately, beyond our control. Companies and credit card companies and stores and everything, they're really doing their best to prevent this because they don't want their name out there as having a security breach. But we're not going to talk about those because those are a little bit beyond our control. I will share one good method is checking our credit reports. That's something, if we check those on a regular basis, kind of like having preventative mammograms or things like that. We may only do it once a year or whatever, but it's going to help us show signs. If we check our credit report, it's a good thing. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But what are some ways that these scammers want to try to get our information when we're online or when we're getting our information out there? So one of the things, there's something called skimming. Many of you may have heard of. This is when we use our debit card at the ATM, or when we make purchases. Actually, this could even happen at point of contact purchases in the store if we're paying with our credit cards or debit cards. It's a little less. It happens more at the ATMs because they seem to be more solitary. In the stores, you know, we know that when we go into our stores, they've been checked, and they're usually right at the register. So if something looked kind of funny, you would notice it, and somebody would tell a manager, and they would immediately see. With these scamsters who do these skimming on ATMs, they count on the people that are doing it after hours. So let's say after the bank closes and all the bank employees leave, then they're going to come around and they're going to put this device. And it looks a lot, they call it a false reader. It looks a lot like a normal one. Some of the obvious really bad jobs, you may notice, you know, if you see a little tape or if it looks like glue or anything like that. I was given a presentation, our whole office was given a presentation a few years ago by a detective. And he told us, just shake it, just kind of touch it and shake it. And I do it every single time, even the ATM inside the bank. I go in and I just sort of rattle it a little bit. And you just, if it falls into your hands, you know that it's broken, but it's usually not that obvious. A lot of these scammers do a really good job. They put this false overlay right over where your credit card would go in, okay? So you want to check for scratches, for any of that kind of tape or anything. And it shouldn't scrape the card. It should go in nice and smoothly, right, when it's normal. But there's also, number two, is the camera. If you're using a debit card and you put your card in there, let's say they do take the digital information off it. Well, what's the other thing you have to do with an ATM? You have to give a PIN number. So what they often do is, well, as part of their scam, is they have a camera, which would be set up behind you. So what that detective told us to do is just take your hand and cover the PIN code when you put your numbers in, and that should help on that. So the thing with skimming to be aware of is, it didn't even mention, it could happen at the gas pumps as well. We hear a lot about skimming on the gas pumps. I've noticed at the gas pumps, and I think they're aware of this, is a lot of times they have a like a sticker sort of covering it, and then it's written over with the date. So it clearly has not been tampered because there's a secure sticker there. But you want to, maybe use those pumps that are closer to where the store is, especially if you're doing this at night, or pay inside. If you're at a gas pump that you're a little bit leery of, when it comes to ATMs, I highly recommend really doing it during business hours, because the bank tellers generally check the ATM in the morning and at night, and even once or twice during the day. I tell people, if you're using an ATM in a convenience store, really be leery. Not only the fact that the scammers might try to do skimming on those, is that there's extra fees involved with those anyways. But you want to double check. If you've used a device, if you've used an ATM, and your gut is telling you, you know what, something just didn't feel right. It sort of jammed a little when I was pulling in, but I really needed the money. I had to pay someone money. I had to get it out. Review your statements. You can call the bank the next day and you could check that transaction. You can see if there was any unusual activity. And if there's something on your statement that's amiss, you want to report it, okay? You can even report to local law enforcement if you wanted to. Generally, the first call would be to that financial institution to let them know. But especially if you are in one of these and it's been tampered and it's after hours, you can even just call the police and have them come and check it out for you. And then, as I mentioned, you will want to review your credit report. If you think that maybe your information might have been taken due to skimming, you want to check your credit report there. Okay. Skimming is probably the least likely of all these to happen to us. I mean, it can happen, which is why I share it with all of us, and we really want to be diligent. But unfortunately, this scam here is one that we see more often, and it's these phishing scams I talked about before. Okay, it looks like it's coming from a legitimate business. I wanted to show you this example. This is actually an email that I received last March. It's been a year and a half already. And I did screenshots off my phone, which is why the setup is like that. But this email, it came in and it was the United States Postal Service. So, okay, a government agency. Okay, you think you'd be able to trust that, right? All right, but one little red flag for me, why would the post office email me? Never in my life has the post office reached out to me by email. I get my mail to my mailbox, and if for some reason my mailman or mail person couldn't deliver it, they would leave a little form in there, and usually I would have to go to the post office and pick it up. So that's really the first big red flag, just who it came from. And I know better, so I normally would have deleted this, except I wanted to share this with everybody. But let's just say, okay, the post office, and let's just say I didn't know, and I opened it up. So our company's courier couldn't make the delivery. That's the subject. Oh, okay, I'm still reading. Looks like the logo, USPS.com, looks pretty legitimate. But all they're saying is, we have sent you a message. And then I'm supposed to click here to view details. That's another red flag that should come up. It's a very short message. Again, why are they just telling us they're sending me a message and want me to click a link? Clicking a link is a big red flag. And now I've pointed to all of these because when an email comes in, when we take our mouse and hover over it, the actual email address will pop up. So if you look back on the email you got from Eric or from Mystic and Noank Bank, I'm not sure what it comes through as, Eric, but if it says, let's say it came from your name, it'll say your name. But if I hover over it, it'll give Eric's actual email address at the library. So I know, okay, this is legitimate. Well, look at here. I hovered over United States Postal Service, and this was the email. CJH9669 at NewYorkCity.com. That has nothing to do with USPS.com. That clearly is not a valid email address. And any of these hyperlinks that I hovered over, this hyperlink should say USPS.com, and it didn't. These were all not valid. They were links that were going to send me to a site that looked legitimate, and somehow it was going to have me put in my personal information, probably a bank account or a credit card or something like that. They were probably going to ask for a credit card because of delivery or something. There was an extra delivery charge or something. Okay, I'm going to share another type of phishing email. This one will look a little bit more normal. This one I got in July, and I might have shared this the last time I did a program. So I'm actually going to share a couple others. But this one came from, seems to be an Asian name. Okay, that's, you know, I get emails from a lot of different type of people. That doesn't really faze me initially. But the subject, my COVID-19 donation. Okay, my interest is piqued. I'm a little bit leery, but I'm going to keep reading. Greetings. My name is Wang Hongying, the owner of Luen Yik Manufacturing Company from Wuhan, China. Okay, red flags, bells are starting to go off a little bit. She goes on to say she's in the hospital recovering from the coronavirus. Her husband had passed away, and before he died, he wanted his money to go to help other people affected by COVID-19. And she wants to transfer $5.3 million into my account. This is a classic phishing email. I want to share with you, I'm actually going to go over into my emails here, and I'm going to show you, hope you can all see my screen here. Oh, no, not my inbox. I have junk email. I've kept them here. So here was one. Here's a great deal on masks. So now early on, this came, when was this email sent? This came several months ago, I think in September. And back around then, people were still kind of, you know, coronavirus was early. Actually, this might have even been, this was July. And, you know, people couldn't get masks, or maybe people didn't want to go out into stores. And, oh, this is great. Look at all these great links. But really look at the links. They look just like mumbo jumbo. We want to delete that email. Here's another one. Good day and God bless you. I'm writing to you from Germany, and long and the short of it, her late husband, before he died, deposited $50 million into a bank in India. And I want it to go to the United States, so I've chosen you to take my money and deposit it. It's, believe it or not, people fall for these. And this is why I'm showing these to you. Here's another short but sweet one. This person is just trying to sort of lure me in. He's a former Thailand prime minister and has a really good business proposal. If I was really curious, you know, maybe I'd want to email him back. We don't ever want to do this. Here, right in the subject line, this is an investment proposal. You'll be given a percentage of the investments as long as both parties agree. Now, to all of us, these are all of us are going to delete these, I hope. They seem very, very obviously a scam. But some people, you know, when your guard is down, or you need the money, let's say, or let's say you honestly want to help other people too, and you just have a charitable spirit, and you're thinking all the people you could help with this, and your reason goes out the window. What I'm here to tell you is, anytime you get an email from somebody you don't know, I don't even want you to get to the point of reading it. I want you to just delete it. In my junk email, I have dozens right now, and I go in every day and I just delete them all. I've saved these to share with people, but in general with these phishing emails, they're sometimes not as obvious. As I mentioned before, maybe it says Amazon.com and there was an issue with your order and we just want you to confirm your credit card information. Well, I'm ordering a lot from Amazon.com lately, and what if my guard is down and I'm worried about my kids and their homework and everything, and I just click it? And maybe that link is going to put malware on my device. It's, you know, I might know if it asks me for my credit card number, I'll say, wait a minute. But if I'm not thinking and just click a link, we have to be we just have to do our due diligence and be careful. This is something called email spoofing, where you get an email, might look like it's from a friend of yours, and it's got a real strange subject line. These are the ones you need to be careful of because you think it's from someone you know. What did I just say to you before? Delete anything from people you don't know. But now here's a case of an email that comes in, you think it's somebody you know. But look at this example here. All the person wrote was, you probably want to check this, and it's a link. All of these kind of spoofing emails, they really just have a link. And that's what they want to do, is they want to put some malware on your device, and all of a sudden this pop-up will appear that if you put your credit card information in, it'll help clear it up. So just be very careful of these. And if you're not expecting an email from a friend, just delete it or call them and say, did you email me? Yeah, chances are your friend is going to say that they've been hacked. Now this is a text scam. This is an actual text that was shared to me by a student at a high school where I had done a program. And this just came in and said, I saw you last week and I liked you. I'm the girl who is looking at you and smiling. Now there's punctuation errors. She says she wants to get to know each other better, and there's a link. And our curiosity, our instinct, makes us want to click that link. And again, that's probably going to upload something malicious onto your device. So make sure your device, as I said, has the latest software and any type of antivirus or security you could put on it. Okay, we want to be leery of these random texts that come in. Okay, so as I say, it's the clicking, sharing, and saving. You want to be careful. You don't want to give out personal information over phone, telephone, social media, unless you know who it is you're dealing with. Beware of those emails and attachments and links. If it's unsolicited, you don't want to open that. If that's something, you know, on occasion your bank might send you something, it's probably just marketing if it's legitimate, so don't even worry about it. As I say here, if it's from a friend, you still want to be cautious. You want to make sure that's actually an email your friend is sending you. Backup files. We're using these devices every day. And if we're on our computer and we've got, even if it's, you know, I upload pictures and I would be distraught if I lost a lot of these pictures. You want to back them up. There's ways of doing that with an external device. I know a lot of people use the cloud, and that's a really good way of doing it as well. But honestly, the cloud is way up here to me. I don't quite understand it. I actually use something called an external hard drive, and you can back up things to that. You just want to be wary. As I say, you don't want to be afraid. You know, we want to go online. It's okay to make purchases online. I definitely want to be clear. We can make purchases. We can book airline tickets. We can do our online banking. We just want to make sure our device is very secure and the sites we go to are legitimate. That's really bottom line. So here, as I say, you want to password protect all your devices. One thing I didn't even mention was shredding. And when it comes to people potentially getting our personal information, you don't want to just throw away documents. So important to shred anything that's got credit card information or your banking information, or even worse, your Social Security. Anything that comes in from Medicare that you don't save or anything, you want to shred that. In fact, that's another, I mentioned earlier, I assist my mother with a lot of her things. You can go online for Medicare. You could go online and set up an account, and everything is actually available to you there. So if you don't want to get the paper copies that now, oh, do I have to shred this? I don't know if I have to save this. It's all online in a secure place, as long as you password protect. Again, use the privacy settings on social media. Social media is a great way to connect, especially with family and friends. My family that live out of state love to see pictures of my kids and what we're doing. Even my in-laws live an hour away, and I posted some pictures of my boys doing their pumpkin carving, and we talked to my in-laws last night and they were thrilled to see the pictures. Again, in both cases, we want to have our privacy settings there and just have our friends be able to see all that. If you're going to dispose of an old computer or of an old device, you want to make sure all your personal information is cleared from that. And that's something a computer expert can help you with. And lastly, but so important that I've talked about it a lot today, beware of phishing emails. Those emails, the calls, it could be those telephone calls coming in, oftentimes are phishing calls, pretending to be the government, pretending to be your bank. They're phishing for your information. You want to be careful of those. The other thing I wanted to share, I thought it would be kind of fun to sort of end with. I never really talked about passwords. That could probably be a whole nother topic. But it's really everything we're online with, you need a password for. And you really should have a different password for everything. What I'm hearing more and more is that people should be using password managers. I gotta be honest, I'm still getting there. I see Eric nodding his head. Yeah, it's like we're told, look them up. So I've actually been researching them a lot. I kind of want to put together a program on that, but I feel like I should really be using it first before I could really speak on them.
I'm in the same boat. I'm nodding my
Yeah.
head, but I also don't use one.
Eric, I'm so ready. I just a couple of weeks ago was on a webinar, and it was great. It was an AARP webinar. I have to share with everybody, whether you're old enough to be an AARP member or not. Go to their website. They have excellent webinars, and they have something called the Fraud Watch Network. You can Google it, AARP Fraud Watch Network. And I was on a webinar they had, and they had an actual scam, a con artist. He used to be a con artist. Now he works for the government. And it was kind of frightening what he said he used to do. And one of the things I left that webinar with was he highly suggested a password manager, because I have to admit, I have mine written down somewhere, and I shouldn't be sharing this. I'm not speaking for the Department of Banking, but we have so many. One of my IT managers actually gave some really good advice, is have a password, and if you need to write them down, have one password you remember, a really good long one, like 10 digits long, really good. Remember that in your head. And then for everything else, sort of have an extension. So maybe the extension is different things in all caps or numbers. But if you just write down the extensions, if somebody got hold of your piece of paper that's got, Facebook, and it just has that extension, that's not going to get them anywhere. It's something tedious that you'd have to do, but what I wanted to share here are the worst passwords that people use. And this was done by a survey, that something called Splash Data. Every year they update their top 10. Actually, I think they do like a top 100. These are their top 10 worst passwords of 2019. And they said, when I Googled this for the first time, I think maybe since they've been doing this, the word password was not in the top 2. It went down to number 4, but people use the word password as their password. Number 1 is 1234556, and a terrible password, not only in that it's so simple, but we're hearing passwords should be really at least 10 to 12, maybe even 15 letters or numbers long. That the longer your password, the more secure it will be. But look at some of these. Anybody, QWERTY, anybody that had taken typing in your life, QWERTY is what's on the keyboard, right? They go right in order. I love you is an easy one. All ones. I mean, if you want to get hacked, you want to do one of these. These are they're the worst passwords. Even this one up here, you're thinking, well, that looks pretty good. 1Q, 2W, 3E, 4R. Well, if you look on your keyboard, It's just you're going diagonal, 1 to Q, 2 to W, 3 to E. This one's new to their top 10, but they consider it a really bad password. So that's my information for you. This is, again, I'm with the Connecticut Department of Banking. This is our contact information if you needed to call the agency. I will share with you all that we are still, I would say 95% of the agency is working remotely, and those other 5% just go in every now and then to get the mail and to do the things they need to do. But if you leave a message, it's checked several times throughout the day. Also on our website, which is ct.gov/DOB, you can put in an online complaint. So you can go on and you could submit your complaint. We also have an email right on that front page that you can, I believe it's department.banking@ct.gov, and you can send an email and it gets checked several times a day. We're also on social media on facebook.com/CTDOB. And while we still have a few minutes before 7, I did want to share a couple really good websites. identitytheft.gov is from the Federal Trade Commission. Really great resources. A lot of the things I've shared with you, but also if you think you may have given up some information and maybe you think you're a victim of identity theft, you can sort of start your recovery plan by who to report to, the kind of check mark the steps that I need to do. I also wanted to share, if anybody was interested, we talked a lot about the digital banking and the online banking, is FDIC.gov. And actually, I wonder if maybe we should copy this into the chat.
I always do I'll send this stuff out by email after.
Okay, great. This is one of their consumer news, and it's called Is Digital Banking for Me? And it kind of gives a little bit of, what you get from your brick and mortar bank, and then what you might not get, but what you also may get from the online. The biggest difference with the online is you're not getting a real person. And I like going into the bank and talking to the people there and getting that information. And there's also, when you're doing online banking, it's kind of cashless. You're not actually dealing, you're not getting that cash in your hand. The other website that I wanted to share, I should have pulled it up already, but it's Annualcreditreport.com. And this, as I said, when it comes to identity theft, or if you're concerned that maybe you get your credit card statement and you've got it looks like somebody used your card, or there were some charges that you didn't make, or your bank statement, it looks like maybe, I didn't make this, and you call your bank and everything. The next thing you may want to do is check your credit report. And normally you could check your credit report once a year at Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. But right now, and it says it right here with this exclamation point, because of COVID-19 and coronavirus, you can check your credit report online once a week. It's amazing. You can literally once a week go in and check those. But you need to go to annualcreditreport.com. If you go to each of the 3 individually, they could charge you. And this is not your credit score. I know a lot of people maybe get their score through their credit card company or maybe through a service they use. This is your actual report. And I think it's more important to check your report, because your score, someone may steal your information and apply for credit, and they don't want you to find out right away, because, hey, they're buying a lot of stuff. And so they're going to use it, and it might take a little bit of time, but all of a sudden maybe your score will dip, because maybe they're doing it and paying a little bit. Maybe they just kind of want to feel it out and see if you notice. So your credit score may be fine. It's once they stop paying it and start charging these, high-end electronics, and maybe book a vacation and then don't pay it, that's when you're going to see it. So you want to look for that on your credit report. So I'm going to do a stop share so that I can kind of get back to you again. I really want to thank you all for listening in. And again, Eric, if anyone has questions, or if any questions come up another time and they email you, you can email me, you know how to reach me. I'm happy to send those websites again if you need them in an email. And yeah, this is just really good information, and just we've got to do our due diligence and protect ourselves.
Thank you, Kathleen, for presenting on the topic and for offering to kind of pull together resources specifically on this topic. But did anybody have any questions that didn't get addressed? We just have a couple minutes, but.
Okay, excellent. Oh, is someone, you can, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. No. Thought I saw somebody wanted to say something. No, okay. Well, great, Eric. This was wonderful, and as I said, your library is just, you know, I go around to different do these programs to different libraries in the state and check out the websites and everything, and I gotta give you guys really big huge thumbs up, and just your programming is amazing, and the involvement with your community is just great. So you're all really lucky.
I just unmuted myself, so I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
Great. Thanks so much. That was a great presentation, Kathleen. When you talked about two-factor authentication,
Yes.
immediately after that, you mentioned something about a secondary lock. Remember that? You know what you were talking
Secondary
about?
lock. Let me take a quick look back. Let me see what
it was
maybe
something that gave you an even added measure of comfort, which is one step beyond the two-factor authentication.
Yeah, let me see. I'm trying to remember what I said there.
I know you said something about getting an email confirmation of a transaction or a text confirmation, but you mentioned the word lock. That was something that I wasn't familiar with. It's okay.
Oh, I bet I know what I was talking about. So on our devices, and I'm not getting my device to, it's opening right up for me, but this device, I have it on my iPad as well, is if I left it just sitting there after about 30 seconds, it locks. That was the lock I was talking about. And you need to do a PIN code, right? Yeah. Yep. That was exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. With our, and in fact, we actually, even at home, we have it with our, we don't have a laptop. We actually have a desktop computer. And when we're not using it, we put it to sleep. And then to turn it back on, we have to put we have a 4-digit code, and nobody uses it but the 4 of us in my house. But we still have it set to that lock. It's just habit. Yeah, it's a good habit to get into. Yeah, it can be a pain when you're home and you have to keep unlocking it. But again, like I said, it's a good habit. So.
And that takes us to 7, but if anybody does have other questions about this topic, you can email me. I have CC'd Kathleen to the earlier email today. You could reach out, and you had mentioned some of the nitty-gritty questions you might have to forward on to somebody else in the department, maybe. Or
Exactly. We have great a lot of knowledge in our agency about a lot of banking questions. You know, one question a lot of people ask is not having to do with identity theft or anything, but how come if I go to a bank, like if you give me a check and the check is a Bank of America check, and I go to Bank of America, they won't necessarily cash it because you're not a customer, and it's something where you have to be. So we get a lot of questions and things. Our consumer affairs folks are very busy with a lot of handling a lot of questions and complaints for people. But absolutely anything that I can handle, I will. And anything I can't answer, I know where to go. So, well, thanks so much, Eric. I really appreciate you all coming on tonight. Have a safe night and a good night, and we'll see y'all soon.
yeah, thank you, Kathleen. It was really helpful.
All right,
and I'll send out a follow-up email to you all with some of those resources, probably tomorrow morning.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
All right. Take care, Eric.
You
Right,
too.
thanks,
Thanks.
Kathleen.
All right. You got it.